are solid state and tube timber, as well as
It's noticeable to me that when I use a 4K mouse, it just feels more responsive.
you can go as fast as you can without trying to go on.
Hello YouTube! Welcome to the long-awaited review video of the LAMZU Maya. I know heaps of you guys have been asking me for this, and I'm happy to finally give you guys the review. Now before we get started, we have another change happening today, and this will continue from this video onwards. That is, in case you haven't realized it already, better video quality. So I have finally upgraded my dying phone to a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, which means higher resolution and better viewing experience for you guys. And so I do hope all of you enjoy. Now for the Maya. LAMZU first showed me this mouse before the Thorn was even ready, and they had prototypes of it. At the time, it was called the LAMZU Mayan, and I had them change it to Maya because Mayan didn't sound right. When I first saw the mouse and the associated dimensions, I thought to myself, okay, whatever, this seems like a mid-mouse. It's too small, I don't see how the shape is unique, and whatever. Little did I know how wrong I was going to be, and that this mouse, up until this point, would be my pick for mouse of 2023 and the best LAMZU has made to date. To give you guys the quick summary, the Maya is an excellent small to medium sized fingertip and relaxed claw grip mouse. The click feel and implementation on my unit has been the best of any LAMZU mouse so far, so those custom switches really are doing something. And the weight and distribution is excellent, the sensor placement is good, the shape is phenomenal, there is nothing negative for me to say. In fact, I put off recording this video for so long trying to find some faults, but it was just so difficult. The only nitpick I could kind of have, other than small things everywhere else, would be the front skate design is just two small corners, and that might be an issue when using X-Soft pads. But other than that, I really couldn't come up with anything else aside from minor nitpicks, and stick around if you guys want to see what those are. Aside from shape and size being subjective, this mouse really is it. So for details, features, and unboxing. This is a LAMZU mouse. It retails for $94 US on the LAMZU website, or 170 Australian dollars from Osmodshop for those of us in Australia. I'm also sure everyone is aware of how amazing LAMZU unboxing is by now. You take it out of the cover and you open it up, then the first thing you're greeted with is this LAMZU writing passage and the Maya printed artwork. Now in case you guys didn't know, I actually wrote this passage for LAMZU this time. So yes, this time, it is my original writing, and I'm very proud of it. Unlike previously with the Thorn, where I translated the passage from Chinese for them, this time they came to me and said they were lost for ideas on what to write. And that's when I said, hold up, let me cook.
Look at what we have created! Yes! Yes! We are engineering masters. We made this on our first try. No errors.
It took like 5 minutes. 5 minutes to make this.
5 minutes, we made this beautiful sled.
In reality.
And then I'm on the bus and I created this piece of writing when I was just bored. Fully original, by me, now printed on the Maya box. And most importantly, I hope you guys all enjoy it as much as I did writing it. Now on the right side, you get the mouse and the receiver. On the left side, you get the usual accessories, including a USB-C cable and a dongle extension, some extra skates, some grips, and whatever else there is in there. Now it comes in 3 colorways available. Needless to say, we have the red one here, which I specifically requested, given I've seen enough black or white or gray-ish looking mice. So firstly, moving to build quality. The mouse has a hollowed bottom plate. There is the design that's supposed to match the Mayan theme, which you can tell from these holes and these lines, kind of similar to traditional art, clothing, statues and the such. The PCB in this case is used to strengthen the side of the mouse, which is pretty common practice for mice with hollow bases like this now. As a result, the mouse feels extremely sturdy with no flexing of any sort. Even the base itself, these plastic limbs here, do not flex at all. I can't say the same for G-Wolf's mice, where these plastic plates here do have creaking and flexing. Somehow the ones on the Maya just don't. The coating is rubberized, it feels good, remains grippy for my use, but this is a very subjective point, and as I always say, just get grips or use the stock ones if you need to. Sensor and placement. The Maya features a 3395 with 4K compatibility. If you guys have the dongle of any LAMZU mice, you can pair it with your Maya. So if you guys already have one from some other mouse, don't need to buy another one. Now this is the industry standard. It's a proven sensor and it was the same on all previous LAMZU mice. I don't really need to talk much more about this here. Sensor placement is where the important part is. The sensor placement on the Maya is good, but it's not one of the best there are, like the G-Wolves mice, which are more forward. I think the most important location to gauge sensor placement is where your thumb is on the side of the mouse relative to the sensor. Now in this case, if you have a look, my thumb is way past where the sensor would be, whereas on the HTS Plus here, my thumb is pretty much in line with the sensor. Unfortunately, this mouse is a bit too small because I have those 21x12 hands, but I'm sure with more regular sized hands, you guys should be fine and your thumb is likely to be where the sensor is. In-game use, however, the Maya's placement functionality is phenomenal, and every time I do a big swipe, I do turns, I do micro adjustments, the mouse just responds how I want it to. There aren't any wonky movements. For example, I do a big turn, and then instead of doing a horizontal turn, I do kind of like a diagonal line of sight difference. So no complaints here. It still works just as it should be. Now, clicks feature a brand new custom-made blue shell pink dot by Huano under LAMZU specifications, and they sure as hell did well for this one, because blue shell pink dots were previously used on the LAMZU Atlantis, and those felt extremely nice and crispy to click. Easily one of my favorite click feels of all time. Yet the only complaint I have about those is that they were ever so slightly on the firmer side. On the Maya, however, now, the clicks are lighter than they were on the Atlantis, and it retains that same crispy feeling. So I think this is an upgrade. Now I have heard others say something about the clicks being difficult to press down towards the front of the mouse, and I don't really agree with this, or at least not on my unit. The front of the mouse does seem to be a little bit more mush when pressing at the edge of the mouse, but I think this is pretty normal for most mice depending on tension and placement of the switch under it, whether the switch is here or here. I do want to say though, that firstly, I don't think anyone will ever click right on the edge of the mouse. You know, if your fingers are hanging off the front of the mouse, you probably need a larger mouse or to change your grip. Secondly, it does not affect in-game performance at all. In fact, I didn't even notice that this was a bit more mush until I intentionally went testing for the edge of the click piece. And I was also doing something like this, giving a little extra wobble just to see how much wobble there was before it actually clicked. For my opinion, however, I just think the clicks are flawless and there's nothing but praise I can give it here. The mouse weighs in at 47 grams according to LAMZU. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a scale to measure it myself. And I know, you guys have been asking me, hey, go buy a scale, it's like $20, but every time I walk past the store, I forget. So, same as usual, next time I walk past it and I remember it, I will buy one. Now, weight distribution is perfect. You can hold the mouse in the center, it does not tip back or forth at all. Spinning it around on the pad, it reveals the same result, and also when you give it a little swipe, there is no like weight imbalance that causes it to move more on one side than the other. I've messed with the skates as well, and yet it still glides just fine, so there is really nothing more for me to say in this regard. Really, really good. It certainly feels lighter in hand than the HTS Plus here. Now regarding skates, my model came with red skates, whereas if you look at photos from other reviewers or on their website, they will come with regular white PTFE skates. So I actually picked at the skates for quite a while, thinking there might have been like a film layer on mine or something that I haven't removed. Now thankfully, LAMZU later confirmed to me that the skates were just red and there's nothing wrong with it. As you can kind of see here and around other places, there should be signs of me having seriously scratched at it, maybe on this front skate as well. The stock skates are excellent. I have no complaints about it at all. And I definitely don't think I need to recommend buying replacements. Unlike with other mice where I always tell you guys, hey, buy replacement skates when you buy the mouse. In this case, I don't think I need to. But with that being said, I personally would still replace them with core pads in the future just because I like core pads. It's purely an OCD thing. Now, replacements are most definitely not necessary. The skate design itself is fine. You get the two small front skates, one large center ring. You have two holes on each side of the ring skate that you can actually put a little red dot on as well. And then you get the one big piece at the back. Now, apparently in stock form, it doesn't come with these two dots, but in the replacement skate that you get with the mouse, it actually does provide you with the little red dots that you can put onto the sides here. I don't think they're really important though. Now the design is fine, but just do note that if you press down really hard towards the front and you use an X-Soft pad, the two front skates can apply too much pressure and dig in deep into the mouse pad so that you start scratching the base plate. Now it doesn't really happen anywhere else, just towards the front. Now I've only occasionally experienced this on this X-Soft Saturn Pro. I think changing to core pads will solve this issue entirely. It was one of the reasons I started maining core pads in the past as well, because core pads are a thicker skate. So even if you apply a lot of pressure, it's still thick enough that you don't reach the plate. On non-X-Soft pads, mid or regular softness, I haven't experienced it at all, so I don't think that's a problem there. Now the most important thing when we come to these mice is shape and comparisons. Now the Maya is something along the lines of a hybrid between a GPX and a Viper Mini. Unfortunately, I don't have either of those mice on hand now, but you'll just have to trust me on this one. The GPX kind of aspect comes from the center hump location, but it doesn't feel as rounded or egg potato-like in your hand in the rear. I do have one mouse that's very similar to a GPX, which I do call a baby GPX right here, that if you have a look, just looks like a GPX, and you can kind of tell that from the back. The Viper Mini aspect comes from the front of the mouse, with the nice lower button height and the sides. Now as for how does it feel in hand, the rear of the mouse is much more flat and sloped along this area, so that it fits into the rear of your palm and you can actually press down on it. It provides a lot of support in your resting position because the palm is pushing down on the mouse here to apply stability. Whereas on more rounded mice like GPX, or in this case the X1, which has this rounder hump here, it's more like you're pushing the mouse into your palm rather than your palm pushing on the mouse into the pad. When I hold it in my hand and I hold it like this part is trying to push into my palm. That's how it feels like when I'm gripping it. I can't actually apply force with the base of my palm into the pad because this part is too round. That's not the case here. This slope area fits perfectly along the side of your palm here, and you can push down on the mouse like that. It's perfectly flat like that. So this provides a lot more stability than this ever did. In addition, even though that this has a center hump, the position of the hump really sits right where I want it to in my palm, right around here along the ball of my palm, and it gives me that full and stable feel. The only problem for me is that the hump still isn't tall enough for my hand size, but for the average person, this should be perfect. The front of the mouse maintains that low button height and narrow grip width, right? This allows for ease of micro adjustment and fingertip movements. Now remember, micro adjustments come from your fingertips. And if you have a narrower grip versus a wider grip, the narrower grip means you have more range of motion on your fingers to move the mouse around versus being really fulled out and you barely have room to move your fingers. In summary, this shape is just absolutely insane when it comes to all aspects of the gaming performance, whether that be micro adjustments or providing stability and doing micro movements. Now, once again, I have to reiterate, the only complaint I have is that it's too small for 21x12 hands, but I'm sure not everyone has 21x12. Unfortunately, it just means stability is still lacking because I'm not always getting enough contact on the mouse towards the rear, despite the placement of the hump being really good. In addition, my ring finger literally hangs off the side of the mouse here. As you can see, I am literally pushing against the side there and it hangs off. It's just not long enough. Micro adjustments do feel excellent, but when I do any sort of spray control or push down hard, the mouse sometimes moves a bit too much in my hand, in the sense that I can literally get movements within my palm itself just because it isn't filling up enough. Like if I'm doing spray control in a game and I push down really hard on the front, the mouse can literally lift off on the rear, especially because there's palm contact and it's grippy enough. I can do a swipe, do a flick, do a hold, and then all of a sudden the mouse is lifted on the back. And then I'm just like, oh, what the hell is going on, right? It is doing movements I didn't tell it to do just because there's enough room for it to move within the hand. That is ultimately what puts me off from maining the mouse, and I do think if I can get a LAMZU Maya in size, let's say 1.2, right, 1.2 times bigger, just very slightly, then this might just be a new main. Make it slightly longer, slightly taller, just size it up by a little. Now you could also fingertip grip this mouse, but my only concern regarding fingertip grip is the location you would grip the mouse might feel slightly awkward if you aren't used to having the hump where it is. Now usually mice with center hump like this have taller button height towards the front, and the buttons reach longer and deeper into the mouse like that. As you can see, for example, bringing out the X1 here, you can see that the click itself is much bigger than it is on the LAMZU Maya here. So therefore, having to grip the mouse with a fingertip grip like this, you're really far forward and then the distribution for weight feels slightly off. But for some people, especially if you have smaller hands, this might not be an issue. If you do a pincer fingertip though, you will love this because there is just enough height on the side here to fit into your knuckles, or where your knuckles would be. And you can hold a fingertip grip like that. this location feels really, really good and perfect. And if I was to fingertip grip a mouse ever, this would be what I would do. Now, as for comparisons, unfortunately, my Atlantis Mini has been lent to a friend's brother, so I can't do that comparison. What I do think, however, is that the Maya is much more of a safe buy and has a shape that should cater far more to users than the Atlantis Mini does. Because the Atlantis Mini forces you into an aggressive claw grip, and that's kind of the only grip that works. In addition, because of the grip styles, the Atlantis Mini will feel smaller in your hand, while the Maya should cater to a much wider range of hand sizes, despite small, medium, or even large hands. Now, what I do have on hand to compare is the HTS Plus, my current main, and the HTX over here. Now, starting with the HTS Plus, skipping aside everything else and just looking at shape, which is the important part. The HTS Plus has a taller button height and grip width towards the front of the mouse when compared to the Maya. Now, needless to say, the Maya absolutely slaps the HTS Plus around regarding micro adjustments, not only because it is just easier to micro adjust with this lower button height and narrow grip width, the Maya also feels a bit lighter. The difference in micro adjustments is immediately noticeable in Valorant gameplay, especially when I'm using weapons like the Ghost or the Guardian, because those are single fire weapons which thrive off micro adjustments on each shot. Where the HTS Plus wins, however, is towards the center of the mouse, because the HTS Plus is taller than the Maya by quite a bit, so it does provide me that palm contact and support for my hands, which I need. This is to maintain stability on the mouse, and it comes in handy during intense moments when you're doing spray and spray transfer. The important part here is that the mouse does not accidentally just lift inside my hand because I am able to push it down for stability, versus when I press down hard towards the front to maintain control of the spray, the mouse starts lifting at the rear. All in all, I think the HTS Plus just seems a little bit more consistent for me, but if I had a size 1.2 Maya, I would challenge it again, and maybe I will just force myself to use the Maya again when I'm bored. I really can't say, because I do love this shape, I just wish it was slightly bigger. Now, moving on to the HTX. The HTX and the Maya actually feel surprisingly similar towards the front. By that, I mean both are insane at micro adjustments given the lower button height and narrower grip width. I do have to give the micro adjustments to the HTX, however, because the HTX has even lower button height than the Maya, as well as a far more forward sensor placement, which just makes micro adjustments play a little bit better. Where the Maya beats the HTX, however, is that the hump actually exists on the Maya, unlike the HTX, and so it does actually provide you with support towards the rear, unlike the HTX. I think the Maya strikes a perfect balance, being kind of like a midway of the HTS Plus and the HTX here, kind of having the best of both worlds, so long as the sizing works for me. Now, of these three mice, only the HTS Plus really works for me, just because it is the biggest of the bunch and it feels the most full. Now, as for other comparisons, I will soon receive a WL mouse Beast X, as well as the Fantech Helios 2 Pro, so look forward to those videos for comparisons against the Maya, should you be curious. If you have any questions or other comparisons you want to hear, or just have anything really, drop it in the comments below or join the Discord. The invite link is in the link tree, which is in the YouTube video description. Always happy to chat with you guys, and I think it will be easier to answer any questions you have that way. Now, as for who should buy this, well, everyone, right? I genuinely believe that this is one of the best mice on the market for pretty much every hand size and almost all grip styles. The only exceptions to those would be either absolutely huge hands and or palm grippers. It really is a very universal mouse, and I think everyone should try it at some point. This could honestly just be an endgame. I think this is one of the safest recommendations to make, and it's just hard to dislike it. Once again, thanks to LAMZU for sending out this review unit. Maya is an absolute banger that completely exceeded all my expectations, and I genuinely hope more users out there can get one of these. I look forward to seeing the next LAMZU gear releasing, especially the Tachi, which they have announced. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.